Welcome to Healing Your Family Legacy, here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Innovative, evidence-based recovery that helps to identify intergenerational trauma, allowing for freedom and embracement of the healing process. Today, episode 145, Healing Your Family Legacy, Part 1. And now your host, Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee.
This is Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee, helping you heal your family legacy. Welcome back to my podcast. You might have noticed that I've changed the name back to Healing Your Family Legacy from Dr. Donna. And there was a reason for that. I had feedback from people who have listened to my podcast who also know me. And, they said, well, Dr. Donna is like, there's all kind of doctor this, doctor that, doctor so-and-so. And it doesn't really talk about what my message is about. And it doesn't really give the meaning that I have, which, to heal people's family legacy and what I've spent my whole life doing. So I decided to switch it back to Healing Your Family Legacy. And I also decided to kind of start over a little bit because that too is a decision. It didn't just happen. I've thought about it and I've talked to people about it. And the reason I want to start over again is because people have said, and it has been true, clients and patients have said over the years, whenever they've gone through one of my legacy workshops, and they decide they're going to go through it again and again, and many people have done that. They've decided they're going to go once, go twice, and some have gone 3 times. And the reason for that is that they give me feedback that this is so dense, there is so much material, that even though they hear me talk about it, they read about it in the book, they read about it in lots of books, they go to 12-step meetings, they do all of this, and yet when I go through it a second or third time, they recognize that, oh, here's a whole reality that I don't think you talked about before. And I said, well, I know I talked about it because I've been talking about this forever, or at least seems that way sometimes. And you might have been thinking about, oh, geez, the last time I talked, it's like you might have thought, oh, geez, that thing that she just mentioned, I really relate to that. I understand it. It resonates with me. And so while you're thinking about that and then thinking about how it relates to some of the other things that I talk about, you've missed a whole piece, right? And so I thought, and anyway, in a podcast, you can go back and re-listen to it. But I wanted to start over again and talk about what is this family legacy and why is it so important? This family legacy, it's like everybody that lives on this earth has a legacy that they leave behind. And, some people leave behind a legacy of, trauma. Like, say they are, out of control addict, they're alcoholic, they've got a gambling addiction, they're, acting out in sexual addiction. And when they die, if they haven't done anything about it, that's what they leave. And that's what people remember. And that's what their children remember. And it's what their neighbors remember. And so that's how they're seen. That's how they're viewed. And that's what goes on. Okay? So, for instance, like part of my family legacy that I still relate to quite often is I grew up on farms and ranches, and my father was a rodeo cowboy as well as a farmer and a rancher. And so were my grandparents. And not a rodeo cowboy, but ranchers and farmers. My dad just took it to the next level. And so outside all the time. I mean, as soon as I was able to manage myself, like, walk around without help, ask for what I needed if I needed a sandwich or something, be toilet trained. These kind of things that, when you're out in the world, it's kind of important to be able to manage. So, like most of us, I was probably 3 years old when I was out helping my dad manage the ranch. I mean, there are a lot of things that a 3-year-old can do, because when you're that age, you're learning something new about every 15 seconds. So if you have somebody showing you, here, take this hay and put it over in that manger so that that animal can eat this morning, you remember that forever. When you're young, your brain's not all clogged up with everything else that you've picked up along the way. And so I still remember having that direction from my father. And I remember there was a particular way that you divided the hay up. And there was a particular way that you put it in the manger so that the animals could access it. And so, as a result of, being on a farm and, planting and hoeing and watering and then reaping, it's like I know how to grow just about every vegetable and many fruits that you could imagine. And that wasn't because I went to school to learn how to do it. It's because it's part of my family legacy. I could do those things. I remember doing those things. And I could do those things if I wanted to today. And those are some of the positive aspects of my family legacy. Another piece of that is that as an adult and growing up and, being a mother and all of that, it's like I wanted to be outside. My feelings about being in nature stem directly from how I grew up. As difficult as it sometimes was, I would be out, riding the horse with my dad, trying to find some little cow that got away or just being out riding. And, he would say, see how those mountains go over there. And, if you really, there are different ways of looking at things. And when you're up in the mountains or in the forest and you want to see if you can see animals, you don't look at the forest. You look at the trees, right? Learning how to do that's part of my family legacy. And so when I'm out there, which is very often, I am out hiking and exploring and looking at, it's like, that's how I do it. I look at it in all of those ways that, unless you grew up doing that, you probably wouldn't do it. And so, those are the positive aspects of my legacy. And I hope, I think that my son picked that up, and hopefully that my grandchildren will pick that up, because there's a special kind of relationship that you can develop with the earth when you're on it and you're aware that you're on it. We're all on it, but it's like when you're on it and you're not in a car on it, or you're not in your house on it, or you're not in a store on it, or, it's like when your feet are actually touching the ground and you realize that you're just part of it. And that's part of the legacy. What I talk about in my legacy workshop and what most of my podcasts are about is the impact of coming from a family where children are less than nurtured. And there's a process that I go on. And one is to talk about, how that impacts people and what is abuse? What is child abuse? What is child abandonment? What is child neglect? And because a lot of people, they go through their lives and they think that our family was just fine. I've talked to people who grew up in families where nobody was a hit, nobody was smacked, nobody was slapped, nobody was beat up, nobody was sexually assaulted. And they feel like, now it's like I had a fine childhood. It's fine. And then when I ask them things like, well, describe your parent. Oh, they were fine. It's like my dad was a Vietnam vet. Okay, right there, stop. Because if your dad was in a war, he was impacted by that war. We have a word we call, a phrase that's used these days when we talk about the impact of war on people who have fought, and it's called a moral injury. Okay? So when they come back from war, one of the most difficult aspects of their reentry isn't necessarily what happened to them, but what might have happened around them and what they had to do. All right? And so if you grew up in a family where your father or mother was in a war and was, like, say, in the infantry or even in the Air Force, in some capacity where they had to kill people, they have a moral injury. They have a serious trauma that they, most of the time, until recently, we didn't address at all. We called it shell shock. We called it, we made excuses for all kinds of things that, happened in war and what happened to people that were in the war. Okay. So I did talk to somebody recently about this, whose dad was a Vietnam vet. And, he was really a nice man. When he got home, he might drank too much. Sometimes would go away and wouldn't come back, but he always came back. And he wasn't yelling and he wasn't screaming and he wasn't hurting anybody. Nobody knew where he went. But he drank too much. How much is too much? Well, he usually had to get drunk at night to go to sleep. Okay, so you got somebody with a moral injury, and let me define what a moral injury is. So most of us growing up in this country believe in the idea that we don't kill people. If you go by the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not kill. Even, if you don't have the 10 Commandments, we certainly don't train little children to kill. We just don't train little children to kill other humans. Sometimes, like, for me, I went hunting with my father. We would, he would take us deer hunting with him, and we learned how to hunt deer. We needed to eat deer. We ate those animals, and we're very grateful for them. But it didn't make us into like, oh, let's go to war now, and then we'll be fine. No. And so a moral injury is when somebody is required to act in a way that goes against their value system or is viewed as unethical by them and others. And when they, come back into a situation where now their value system has broken up because they can't accommodate the fact that, say, they walked in and mowed down people, or they had to participate in a bombing raid and then saw what happened after that. I mean, this is big. So, he was a Vietnam vet. Oh, he drank too much, maybe, but he was nice, but sometimes he'd leave. This is all traumatic for a child. If you remember being a child, which, many of us do, not all of us, if you remember being a child, really what you wanted more than anything else in the world was to have your mom and dad, your grandparents, aunts, uncles, grown-ups that were in your family and that were around you to give you time, attention, and energy. Most of the time, the most important people were parents. You wanted your mom and dad to be there. So, even if you got all kinds of toys and everything else, you got everything you wanted, what you wanted was you wanted to play with those toys, you wanted to be around those toys, but you wanted your parents to play with the toys with you, or to just watch you play. I have for those of you who've just never heard me, but now are, so I have a 3-year-old grandson. When I started this, he wasn't 3 years old, but now he's 3. Geez, so he's a little over 3. And one of the things that he loves is he loves to be on FaceTime with us. And the only thing he wants to do is he wants us to watch him play. He said this because, at first it's like you go on FaceTime. Oh, hi, honey, how are you? And, and he talks this blue streak now, but, he tells us all about what he's doing, and he went to swimming, and he went to gymnastics, and he's been helping his parents get ready for the new baby, and, he's talking about all the things that he does because he talks. And then we're done talking. Oh, well, okay, well, thanks for calling, and we really love you. And he goes, wait. It's like, what? And he said, well, watch me play. It's like, okay, we can watch you play. And so then he takes his mom or dad's phone and he sets it up. Usually he has to have some help with making sure that we can see. But he'll set it up where he thinks it should be. And he'll look in to see if he can see himself, which is, normal. And then he starts playing with whatever it is he's playing. And he'll look back to make sure that we're still there, we're still watching. And he'll do that for maybe 5 minutes. And then he's done. He doesn't know we're there anymore. And then we hang up. But even with toys, even with, parents in the room, he wants people to watch him play. And it makes perfect sense. I mean, when you think about, say, professional football players, they're playing, right? Serious game. It's a game that they get paid enormous amounts of money for. But when, it's like they're happy that their family is there. I watch the game sometimes, depends on who's playing. And I hear people say, oh, well, Taylor Swift is watching, or is in the stadium. Or I heard a guy say, so-and-so has 62 members of his family playing, watching him play today. These are grown-ups. You still want people to notice. You want the people that care about you, or that don't care about it, but you want the acknowledgement. And when it comes from somebody that matters, that you care about, that you are in relationship with somehow, it matters even more. So switching back to being a child, just think about how much it matters and how much it mattered to you. Now, when I'm talking about your family legacy, sometimes I give examples of, like my grandson or something I've seen on TV or somebody I've seen in the airport or somewhere else. And I'm talking about you as a child, though, and how it affects you and how it affected you when, say, your dad came back from a war and now he just drinks a little bit too much and he drinks too much at night when he's going to bed, but you're already in bed. How much emotional time, attention, and energy do you really believe you get from that situation? Hardly any. Your parent has got a moral injury. Is trying to reconcile what he did or she did with his or her value system. And like I said, most of us don't grow up with a value system that says go kill people. It just doesn't happen. Okay? So if you grew up with a parent who was in a war, you did not get what you needed from them. You didn't get the time. You didn't get the energy. You didn't get the emotional connection because they're too injured on the inside. And you might not have even noticed it because if it's not, when you're a child, you don't understand emotional neglect. You don't know what it is. You don't know what psychological neglect is. You might not even know what religious abuse is and spiritual abuse. As a child, what you know is if somebody hits you, it hurts. That's what you know. And so unless somebody has told you about these other ways that you might have been hurt as a child, as long as you weren't hit, you feel like you got it pretty good and that you were fine. And I just had a young woman tell me the other day, at least if you got hit or, physically or sexually abused, it's something that is concrete, that you understand and you know it hurts. When you know it hurts, that's when, as a child, that's when you feel like maybe there's something not right here. Even if you think it's your fault. It's really hard for you as a child to think that this person that you count on every day for everything you need is hurting you physically. It's hard to reconcile as a child. And we'll talk more about what children do to manage that. But, in the same breath, when you are dealing with emotional abuse, abandonment, neglect, psychological abuse, religious abuse, spiritual abuse, it doesn't feel like it really hurts. You might feel sad that someone's not there or that you're not getting what you need. You might feel sad. You probably feel like there must be something wrong with you. As a child, you probably feel like something's wrong with you or that you've been really bad. And so you might feel that way, but there's no concrete evidence for you to prove it. So you might say, well, I'm an ingrate. I'm ungrateful. This is what I deserve. How come other people's parents do that with them? How come other people's parents play with them? How come other people's parents go to the game with them? I guess this is just what I deserve, and I'm asking for too much. So when you're a child, what you need is you need their time, attention, and energy. And when you get that, you come out of that childhood feeling like you have esteem. And what is esteem? It's whether or not you feel you have value. If you feel you have value, you're esteemed. And if you grew up in a family that is not abusive, you come out of it and you can start to self-esteem. You don't need your parents and your teachers and everybody that's an adult when you're a child telling you and letting you know that you have value. You have that now. Now you can do what we call self-esteem. And I'm not talking about being better than everyone, being smarter than everyone, doing it better than everyone. I'm just talking about a quiet sense of value that gives you the motivation that you need to become a civil and productive member of society. And to feel like you have enough. So I'm going to keep talking about this because when people listen to me, they many times will give me feedback that I didn't hear that the first time. I didn't get that this first time. So I'll do it again. And I'm even smarter and, I'm older and wiser now. So maybe I have more to say. Okay, I'll see you next time, and I'll just pick it right up.
Thank you for listening to Healing Your Family Legacy here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. Healing Your Family Legacy is copyright 2023, Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.
Hey friends, Sean here, your Experience of the Soul producer. I want to take a moment to tell you about something truly exciting. The SoulWorks online community, created by your host, Cynthia Alice Anderson, and available on the Mighty Networks app. If you're looking for a place where you can explore your spiritual path, connect with others, and grow in a meaningful way, then this is for you. SoulWorks is so much more than an online community. It's a safe, inclusive space for spiritual exploration, self-discovery, and personal transformation. Inside the community, you'll find everything from uplifting spiritual studies to soul-centered growth practices, meditations, affirmations, and so much more. It's a space where you'll always be supported and never judged. The best part, membership is free. You'll have access to powerful resources, inspiring content, and a supportive group of like-minded people who are all on their own unique spiritual journeys. And if you're ready to dive deeper, there are premium options available to enhance your experience with a live Monday night talk series and extended, deeper meditations. If you're seeking a place to connect, grow, and nurture your soul, we would love to have you join us in the SoulWorks community and see where this journey can take you. Visit my.soulworkscommunity.com today.